Gordon?
Yeah.
Yeah. All right, guys. Welcome to my FMP Pitch. You all know who I am, so I don't need to say that. So my idea for the FMP is going to be a short film slash trailer based on the book I published last year for my FMP. And some of the key reasons why I've chosen to do it this year as a film and trailer is because I enjoy film. It relates to my own creation, so it's kind of like a personal achievement for me to kind of go up that one step again, because last year I published this book. That's a big enough achievement as it is. But then being able to publish it as a film is like going up one level. I want to expand my skills in film, because last year it focused a lot on graphics and marketing and publishing and stuff. So I wanted to try and expand my more hands-on level of skill with cameras and films and being able to direct as well. Like I said a minute ago, it's a personal achievement of mine. And I also have the goal in mind to send it off to places like film festivals, to try. One of my main goals this year, kind of outside of the FMP, is to try and get funding for it and make it more of a fleshed out short film than what I'm going to be doing for the FMP. So sending it to film festivals can kind of help me get that funding. And then the run time, I'm hoping it's going to be roughly 5 to 10 minutes or around that. So this is my first FMP mind map. It's like the overall idea. So it goes through a couple of different key things, such as whether it was going to be a trailer or a short film. In the end, I decided on doing kind of a mixture of both. And they span off into different things. So the green lines are pros, positives, and the red lines for all of it are cons and what could go wrong, what I need to think about. So I also spoke about locations and had an idea of what locations I was going to have as well. And then I looked at actors and how I was going to find actors. So like drama students, and then the pros and cons of that, so whether they would have time to help me out on the project or not, and then whether I would ask around online or not, so finding good actors from local school groups and stuff as well. So those were kind of the main overall ideas I looked at for the short film, like actors, locations, the pros and cons for making it a trailer, the pros and cons for making it a short film. So that's kind of my main FMP mind map. Then I started looking at things like my audience and places I was going to send it off. So I made a quick little audience profile for what my ideal target audience would be. So I just made a fake profile called Tom, 17, from Manchester. He's a college student like us with a part-time job, and he's the explorer kind of archetype. And he's got hobbies and interests in like playing football. He likes reading fiction books and stuff like thriller, action, comedy, mystery. He likes hanging out with friends and he goes to the park and stuff. And he plays video games as well. So it's just kind of showing that my target audience are students and people our age as well that have similar interests in what we like. So that way I can put that into my project and see how I can relate my project to my target audience and people who are like us. And then these are 3 different kind of film festivals where you can send off your like short indie films and stuff and try and get funding or get ideas. So there's Film Hub Southwest, and Chagford, I think so, I'm not sure, Film Festival, and then the English Riviera Film Festival that take place at different points throughout the year. So they're ones that I've been kind of looking at and keeping an eye on and up to date on. So next, I started looking at actors because, like I said in my previous slide, I was looking at the pros and cons of local actors and also like the drama students at the college. So far, I've moved on a little bit from this now, from when I started making this PowerPoint. So these are the first 2 main actors I've looked at. For my short film and my trailer, I'm only going to have 2 characters in it, because in my book, there's 3 main characters, Jay, Anton, and Lacey, but I've decided to only use Jay and Anton in the short film just to cut down on actors. So I've actually casted Adrian here as the main character, Jay. I've been in contact with him over the last week or so. He's really keen to get involved. He's not got as much acting experience as David does or some of the others that I've found, but he's really keen and he was happy to get on board with it all. So I've been in communications with him, and I did a bit of research into David as well. I've not been in contact with him yet because he's through an agent, which is a little bit more difficult to get in touch with. But I've been looking and researching a bunch of different actors. I guess probably sitting today, I've been doing a bunch of that. More further details on what I've been researching is locations. So we've got Dartmoor, we've got Decoy, we've got Churston Woods, we've got Primley Woods, Primley Park. These are kind of locations that are pretty ideal for me. My main location I'm hoping to do is Dartmoor. I've not chosen a specific part of Dartmoor yet, probably not Haytor because that's quite populated and it's always quite busy. But places like Primley Woods, if it's pro, it's quite local to me, it's in Paignton. But then another con is that for people like Adrian, who's one of the actors, he lives in Plymouth, so that's a bit more of a trek for him. So with Dartmoor, it's kind of not exactly in between Paignton and Plymouth, but it's, you know, it's a bit more in the middle. And it's also such a big place that there's tons of different locations that will fit my settings. And then places like Decoy as well, they're quite busy as well, but there's nice little trails that go off and can be quite urban and hidden where I can do some filming. So I was doing a bunch of different research into my locations, stuff like different wooded areas, kind of parks and stuff like that, where I can do some filming. And I was looking at the pros and cons of each as well. And yeah, it's good for when I start doing like location recce's as well. So next are some of my inspirations, my four main inspirations. Obviously my book is a key inspiration. That's what gave me the idea. It's all about my book and turning it into a film. That's what the whole point is and the characters are. Another one of my inspirations is Martin Scorsese here, brilliant film director. I mean, kind of the main role I'll be taking on as part of my FMP, as part of my film trailer, is the role of like a director. So having someone who I look up to is actually my favourite film director, being able to kind of research him. I've already researched him for a prior project, but being able to do a bit more further involved, more developed research into him would be really useful for me taking on that director role and looking at some of his films that relate as well. And then two films here which I kind of want to take a similar aspect on is Shutter Island and War of the Worlds as well. They're both quite gritty, dark, action-packed, kind of thrillery action adventures, which is what I'm trying to take on board and go with my film. So I'm doing researches into that as well. That's kind of my inspirations, my four main inspirations. Next is some primary research I've done. I showed you a little bit of a research I did a minute ago with like locations and actors. This is the first main bit of primary research I did, which you guys got involved with, which is my Microsoft form. These are just a couple of screenshots of some of the questions that are on there. Obviously you guys have seen it. But I kind of was asking about people's interests in trailers and films to get that kind of idea for me when I'm making my film. So now I know what film genres my peers like, and that can help me figure out how well received my final major project is going to be for you guys, and how much people like trailers. So there's a question on there about whether people skip the trailers when they go to the cinema, when they're watching a film online, if they ignore the trailers. Obviously, a trailer being a part of what I'm doing for the FMP, it's useful for me to know whether people are actually interested in seeing that piece of information about what the film's about before they actually watch it. And one of the most important questions I thought as part of that Microsoft form is the one up here, which is, do you find it easier to watch short form content compared to long form content? So whether you guys, my peers, and anyone else prefers or finds it easier to watch things like TikToks, Instagram Reels, things that are quick, easy to swipe through and engaging, whether you find it easier to watch that, or whether you actually find it easier to sit down and watch like a half-an-hour YouTube video or a 2-hour film or something like that, or a documentary. So it was really cool to see some of the responses from that, and then I'll be taking that on board with my research and into my project. So moving on from like Scorsese and stuff, but keeping it similar, it's things I need to research. The two main things I need to research as part of this project, which I've not done yet, is directors and directing techniques. So obviously I just said that I really need to look into directors, not just Martin Scorsese, but other big directors as well, Stanley Kubrick and stuff. And then directing techniques, looking at, going to take some books up from the library as well. And Kelly has a big directing book she's going to give me as well next week to look into some of the techniques that are really useful when being able to direct a cast and crew. So these are the two main things I need to research. So now moving on to the next slide. There we go, on to the next slide. Moving it now. There we go, on to the next slide. So what barriers I might face as part of the FMP? These are the three main barriers. Actor availability, the locations / weather, and time I have as well. So ways I can overcome actor availability is making sure that I have those communications with them prior to the filming days, making sure that I've got a good call sheet, and making sure that they know where they need to be and the time that they need to be there, whether they need to bring anything, and then trying to work around their availability as well, because it's not just me that's all about. You've got to make sure that you are keeping up to your actors' schedules as well. Another barrier I might face is the location / weather. So obviously Dartmoor is pretty unpredictable. It could be snowing, it could be really sunny, it could be rainy, it could be muddy. So making sure I keep up to date with what the weather's doing in that area is really important as well. And whether I have availability to access those locations as well, because sometimes things can be really bogged up, so you can't access it, or public footpaths might be closed and stuff as well. So I've got to keep an eye on whether I can actually access those locations, because it's no good saying, meet me here, and then you can't actually show up. And then another big barrier I might face is the time that I have. So obviously we've only got a certain amount of weeks for the FMP, so I've got to make sure that I bide my time between when I need to edit, when I need to shoot the film, and all my research and stuff needs to be done in the time limit I've got. So those are the main barriers I might face. So thank you very much for listening. That's my pitch. And are there any questions? Yes, Daisy?
What if, like, you find, because you've been finding your actors to kind of do it, and then, like, actual actors, not like people in college and stuff.
Yeah.
What would you do if one of the actors, like, pulled out closer to the time? Like, are you prepared for those kind of things?
So I've started, obviously, when I was researching actors and stuff, I was kind of having that in the back of my mind, whether what kind of experience they have is always important as well, because you often find that people who have tons of experience probably are unlikely to do something like a student short film when they've been in big features and stuff, or at least that's what you probably find. So that's why I've been looking at people with less experience, but still very enthusiastic and still on board with wanting to do that. So hopefully it means it's less likely that they were to do that. But if that was to happen, then especially close to the date of things like that happening, then it's probably worth me thinking about like the drama students and stuff as well, or making sure that I've got backup actors as well in case that happens.
Yeah.
Mary, you have a question?
I was going to ask what part of the story are you actually showing?
So I was originally thinking just starting from the beginning, because obviously I want to eventually do the whole book in the short film version, but the first two chapters are very like action and like big buildings and stuff. So there's a couple of chapters which take place in like the woods, where there's a lot of like action and adventure, and they're running through the woods, they're camping out, they're hiding and stuff, which I think is far more available for me to be able to do that as a student with very limited like props and stuff and money and time. So I'm going to be choosing two chapters which I can take scenes out of to put together for a trailer. That was just easier for me to be able to do.
I was just curious how long it's going to take you to get all the footage. Like, are you planning to do it all in one day, or do you have like a rough timeline?
Yeah, so I don't know all board anymore anyway. So I have started like thinking about making like a call sheet and stuff for what days, and like a shooting scheduled log as well. Adrian, who's the actor that I've cast so far, he's actually works from 9 to 5, Monday to Friday. So that's obviously like a big thing, because that very much so limits the time I have to shoot. So pretty much the weekends or after 5 o'clock or before 9 o'clock on weekdays. So I'm hoping for it not to take obviously ages, because I also do miss a fair bit of time being away abroad at the end of the FMP. So I did say to him it would probably only be a couple of days of filming, with a couple of hours, but it's something that I currently progressing on figuring it out. Has anyone else got any more questions? Ash, I already said. No? Ben? No? Cool. I think that's it then.
Yes. How long was that for?